Wait, are you breaking Michigan business law right now without even knowing it? I know, it sounds a little intense, right? But honestly, if you're running a business in Michigan under a name that isn't your actual, true legal name and you haven't properly registered it, you're literally in direct violation of state law. Establishing a legally recognized business identity isn't just a good idea, it's absolutely crucial to avoid some major legal pitfalls down the road.
So, welcome to the Explainer. Let's just dive right into this. Today, we're looking at exactly how to register a DBA or doing business as in the great state of Michigan. We're going to give you a complete chronological roadmap to legally securing your business's assumed name so you can operate your company with total peace of mind. Here is how we're breaking things down today. Number 1, Introduction to DBA. 2, Legal and tax considerations. 3, a step-by-step registration guide. 4, overcoming naming challenges. 5, a real-life example and what to do after registration. And finally, 6, summary and final steps.
Okay, let's kick things off with Section 1, Introduction to DBA. What is an assumed name? So in Michigan, a DBA is formally called an assumed name in the state statutes. But what is it really? Well, essentially, it's just a registration that allows your business to operate publicly under a name completely different from its true legal entity name. The real kicker here, a DBA is not a separate legal entity, not at all. It's simply a 100% legal way to use a different trading name so you can build a more professional brand identity.
Let's look at a super simple example. Think about a sole proprietor, a guy named Tim Jones. Without any sort of registration, his legal business name is, well, just Tim Jones. But let's say he wants to start a publishing company and sound, a bit more professional. By registering a DBA, Tim can legally brand his brand new venture as Jones Publishing. He's not creating a whole new corporation here. He's just putting a much more marketable public face on the business he already has.
Moving right along to Section 2, Legal and Tax Considerations, DBA versus LLC.
Now, this is a massive distinction you really need to understand. A DBA is incredibly cost-effective. We're talking usually between $10 and $25, and it gives you brilliant branding flexibility. But, and this is a big but, it will not act as a shield to protect your personal assets from business debts. Forming an LLC, on the other hand, costs a bit more, usually a $50 filing fee, but it actually builds that protective armor around your personal finances. Because of this, a lot of Michigan entrepreneurs choose to form an LLC first for that solid protection, and then register a DBA under the LLC to get the absolute best of both worlds. So, what about taxes? Well, looking at the Michigan Business Taxes Registration Guidelines, simply getting a DBA doesn't change your tax structure one bit. But you still have a strict obligation to meet all your state and federal tax requirements. You absolutely must maintain separate personal and business finances to avoid a massive headache later on. And hey, if your business has employees, you are still entirely responsible for registering with the IRS and the Michigan Department of Treasury for things like income tax withholding and state unemployment insurance. All right, let's get into the mechanics. Section 3, Step-by-Step Registration Guide, the filing fork in the road.
Okay, Michigan has this highly specific dual-level registration system. Where you file your paperwork depends entirely on your specific business structure. If you're a sole proprietor or a general partnership, your path goes straight to the county clerk's office in the specific county where you do business. The fees there are super cheap, usually $10 to $20. But if you have a formal structure, like an LLC, a corporation, or a limited partnership, you skip the county level entirely. You're going to file at the state level with LARA, which is the Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs. State filing fees are $25 for LLCs and $10 for corporations. Easy enough, right?
So here are your 3 concrete steps to get this done. Step 1, determine exactly where you need to file based on your business type. Step 2, complete the certificate of assumed name. Now, if you're filing at the county level, you're usually going to need a physical notarized paper form, which you can almost always just grab from your county clerk's website. But if you're an LLC or a corporation filing with LARA, you can do this whole thing online through the Me Business Registry, and you don't even need a notary. And finally, step 3, just submit your paperwork and pay the non-refundable fee. Boom, done.
Now for the tricky part. Section 4, Overcoming naming challenges, what you can't say.
Listen up, because your application will be instantly rejected if you trip up on any of these prohibited terms. First off, your name cannot be confusingly similar to an existing Michigan firm. They won't allow it. Second, you cannot use terms that deceptively make it sound like you're a government agency. So no using FBI, State Department, or Treasury.
Third, fiduciary terms like bank, trust, or surety are strictly off limits unless you get special regulatory approval from the state. And finally, and this is a big one, you absolutely cannot use wrong entity designators. If you are a sole proprietor, do not put LLC, Inc., or corporation in your assumed name. It implies a legal structure you just don't have, and they will reject it for sure. So how do you actually avoid all these hurdles? Well, the most actionable thing you can do is right here. Proactively check the databases before you submit anything. Honestly, do a thorough search on Lara's My Business registry to make sure your desired name is distinguishable in Michigan. And it's also highly recommended to run a quick search on the federal USPTO database just to make sure you aren't accidentally infringing on someone else's national trademark. It takes 5 minutes and saves you a ton of trouble. Let's see what this looks like in practice. Section 5. Real-life example and after you register. Jane's Bakery. Let's look at the hypothetical case of Jean Smith. She's a sole proprietor and she really wants to launch a bakery called Great Lakes Sweets. Now, before she can legally use that cool name on her storefront or her marketing or any contracts, she absolutely must file a certificate of assumed name with her county clerk. Once she actually has that approved certificate in her hands, it unlocks all her critical business operations. Most importantly, Michigan banks are going to demand that official DBA paperwork before they ever let Jane legally open a business bank account under the name Great Lakes Sweets. But keep in mind, the process doesn't just permanently end the day you register. Your Michigan assumed name is only valid for 5 years. The incredibly strict renewal deadline is December 31st of the 5th full calendar year after your original registration. If you forget and let that lapse, you legally lose the right to use that assumed name, and it literally becomes available for anyone else in the state to just snatch up. No way you want that to happen. Because of all that, your post-registration checklist is super important. First things first, take that shiny new certificate and go open your business bank account. Next, if you hold any specialized licenses, like maybe for insurance, you've got to update them with the relevant state agency, like the Department of Insurance and Financial Services. Third, please ensure you're keeping your business finances completely separated from your personal ones. And finally, set a calendar reminder right now to renew that name in 5 years. Oh, and just a quick aside, if you ever change your business model or decide to close down entirely, you'll need to formally file paperwork to amend or cancel your assumed name with the exact same agency you originally registered it with. All right, let's bring it all home. Section 6, Summary and Final Steps, Building Your Michigan Brand. Let's do a quick recap of the main takeaways from our sources today. Registering an assumed name is legally mandatory in Michigan if you want to operate under a name other than your true legal one. It's an incredibly cost-effective way to brand your business and build real professional credibility. However, and don't forget this, it is first and foremost a compliance step. It does not provide personal liability protection. And lastly, never ever forget that 5-year renewal requirement by December 31st. Okay, quick timeout for a very important educational disclaimer. This explainer is meant for educational purposes only. As you know, business law and tax regulations can get incredibly complex, and they are highly specific to your unique situation. So please always consult a licensed professional or an attorney for legal and tax advice that's actually tailored to your specific circumstances. A DBA is really just the very first brushstroke in painting your public identity, but as you've seen, it brings some real legal responsibilities with it. So let me ask you, are you just building a business, or are you building a brand? Drop your assumed name ideas or any crazy hurdles you've hit at the county level right down in the comments below. Let's build a fantastic community of Michigan entrepreneurs right here. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will see you next time.